Welcome to the Outer Realms with Michelle, Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his time and his music for our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music platforms. So big thank you to him as well. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He's got a lot of great horror pieces ready to go and does a lot of really beautiful commission pieces. So it's that time of year again where we have been nominated for another People's Choice Podcast Awards. I really should get that right. It's terrible. So I'm going to play a couple of clips before we do an intro on our guests. So bear with me. Here we go. Ours, of course, first.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.
There we go. There's 2 out of the 4 shows that have been nominated on the network. We'll get to some promo for the other shows as we go in further into the show. But tonight, I want everybody to sit back and just prepare for, of course, our returning guest, Elliott Van Dusen, who we know and love, and Darryll Walsh, who's his, I say, it's like I consider Bubbles to be like my partner in crime. I guess it would be like Elliott's. And,
Crime.
they work together, and they research together. And we thought it would be fun since we do sponsor the Halifax Paranormal Symposium, and we've talked about it and went on and on about it now for the last few months. And we've interviewed, some of their guests, and we will be interviewing them again and further down closer to the date as well. So tonight we thought it would be fun because you know how we always talk about we have a lot of paranormal people come on. We talk a lot about parapsychology, but we've never really you know, we like to be very logical about things, but we've never really gotten into, you know, debunking a lot of stuff. I try to be really careful with that. So I just thought it'd be easier to let somebody else do it. So, you know,
Yeah.
I know.
Let them
I
talk
know.
about orbs.
Woo, I know, right?
I think that's
So,
the biggest argument in the
I-
paranormal field is orbs.
there's lots of things.
Yeah, but that one's like always in the conversation.
You know,
It's
you have to look
crazy.
at the logical side of things, which we'll talk about tonight. I always say, I mean, I don't want to say 100% no, it's not, because I don't know. I'm
No,
not bad. I haven't tried it.
no.
But at the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of logical explanations for it. And I've always believed that you go through the process of elimination and see what you're left with. And all it does is just leave room for more research. It doesn't mean it's a definitive solution or definitive answer. So that's a really big thing. So, you know, the guys are going to get into this from a parapsychology standpoint and tell us how, you know, what their thoughts are on it. So I thought that would be a lot of fun. Now I know that Elliott is here, so we're going to bring Elliott in, and we're going to wait for Daryll to come on board and put up our pretty banner. There we go. Here we go, people.
Oh,
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
how are you, sir? Dr. Elliott. I have to put doctor on your promo.
I know.
Congratulations.
You don't have to worry about that stuff, guys. I usually just go by Elliott.
Yeah, but still, it's earned and it's deserved, so it needs to be on there.
That's right.
Make sure for next time, because I'm sure you'll be back.
But we know they're already booked in September.
I was gonna say I'm coming back at least one more time.
Yeah,
we
make
know
sure I
it.
put doctor before that, because that's great. That's fantastic. You have to celebrate that.
Thank
It's a
you.
lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So I just call you Doc. So I guess we're waiting on Daryll. I'm hoping you won't have too many problems with the platform. It's pretty simple to get on. So
Yeah, he should be here soon. I just sent him the link as well, and we tested it out before your show and seemed to work. So.
fantastic.
Excellent.
Fantastic. So why don't we just sort of talk a little bit about the Halifax Paranormal Symposium? I'm going to do a screen share on that right now so we can talk about that before he comes on. 1 second.
Yeah, for sure. So the Halifax Paranormal Symposium is going to be the inaugural version of it this year in Halifax, Nova Scotia, at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Center.
Mhm.
It's going to be Saturday, October 7th, 2023, which is the Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend.
Right.
Tickets are on sale at ppri.net/tickets. We have 5 guest speakers. It's a full day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have Dr. Richard Gallagher coming in from New York State. He's a psychiatrist who teaches at Columbia University. We've got UFO investigator Chris Stiles from Nova Scotia, who I believe you guys have had on the show a couple
Yeah, he's
times.
Several
coming back
times.
on in August too. So
Several
that's going to
times.
be a
We
lot
love
of fun.
him. We love
Yeah,
Chris.
he's been on many times. There we go.
Excellent. We have Lauren Coleman, who we're bringing up from Maine. He's a cryptozoologist. He also runs the International Cryptozoology Museum. And he's going to do a lecture specifically on Nova Scotia, certain creatures that have been reported here, such as, I know, the Wendigo and reindeer. For sure. So that'll be interesting.
Yes.
Kim Moser will be on as well. She is a producer and host of an Eastlink local television show called Haunted.
We just had her.
Yeah.
Oh, was she on the show? I thought
She was
of course.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch the archive then.
She's
I'll send it to
lovely.
you. Yeah.
She's lovely.
She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She does a lot. She's been to a lot of places and has a lot of experience. And happy to have her. And then of course Darryll Walsh, who will be joining us tonight.
He's making a fashionable entrance.
He's going to be doing a lecture called "Are Ghosts Extinct?" and it kind of touches on how things have changed from the old days of how we used to do parapsychological investigations to kind of your modern day with all the technology and the ghost hunting shows and things like that. So
Right. That'll be interesting an interesting topic, because I think people have been in the field for a really long time. We sort of look at a lot of the technology as being, I mean, I always say kudos to those who are trying to better, doing their part and trying to come up with something to maybe help the research along. I used to do events where I used to have everything. If you saw it on TV, I get it, because I wanted to show people, here it is, here's what it costs, does it work? Well, it looks great in the dark. And it had a lot of blinky lights and sounds, but it doesn't mean it works, right?
Yeah,
So,
there's still a lot of misconception, in today's investigative
mhm,
kind of temperature, I guess, because of these shows, and we
right,
try and dispel them. In fact, actually, one of our new hires, I call it, even though we're a volunteer organization, I was looking for somebody that specialized in electronic voice phenomena. And one of our members that used to be a member years ago, uh, it's funny how everything works like in synchronicity, but he was Googling paranormal in Nova Scotia, came across our website, saw that we were active, reached out, asked if I remembered him. I said I did. I said, I actually
right,
have a position available looking for somebody with EVP experience. It turns out Peter has his degree in computer science, and also he's an audio engineer. So he
very nice.
applied for the job and got it. So he's back with us, and he's working right now on kind of looking at the ghost apps right now to see what makes them tick. Almost kind of doing some reverse engineering on it to see exactly
Right,
how they function. So
right,
he's doing some
right.
work on that, and he briefed me on it on what he's kind of found so far.
Hmm.
And I think it'll be interesting once he's done, and obviously once we can, we'll make that report available to the public. But
Hmm.
those ghost apps, I say the same thing about those as I do with the TV. Is that if you're using them, you
With a
should be
grain
doing
of
it like
salt.
for
Yeah,
do it for
yeah,
entertainment purposes only, kind of thing.
Well,
yeah,
not in your own home.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with intention
Mm.
as well, with things like that. I don't think people realize how strong intention really can be when you're putting that out there. It becomes a careful what you wish for situation in some cases. It's like people really ditch the Ouija boards and stuff, and I'm all for it because they're very available to kids, and I think they can get themselves in a lot of trouble because a lot of them are just so naturally highly intuitive. They haven't been weighed down by life, what life has to hand them, But I think when you get into that sort of thing, anything with intention, is putting forth, like even doing EVPs. You're
Hmm.
looking for communication. Does it really matter how
Mhm.
you're doing it if the intention is out there? But Daryll is here, so let the shenanigans
Yay.
begin.
The computer didn't want to open up any of the links, for God's sakes.
Hi,
Darn
Dr. Darryll.
computer.
There's another one I have to change.
I know.
I
got
know we're
Hi,
all
it.
welcome.
we're
You're
we're all
all
formal
doctors.
tonight.
I'm
We're all
feeling
formal
very
tonight.
left out. How do I get one?
Well,
Very
hi,
left
Daryl.
out.
Welcome to the Outer Realm. I'm glad you were finally
Thank
able
you.
to make it. I love that. A brutal believer.
Yeah.
What's the story behind a brutal believer?
Well, I'm not allowed to swear, so Ellie told me so.
I know we're
I
FM. It makes it a bit hard.
don't bring me a bunch of horse manure
Right.
and tell me it's a unicorn, right? Yeah, there's some things
Right.
that are just not and been proven not, and it's like,
Right.
or if you have any evidence, give me some good, strong evidence. So just don't
Right.
say you saw lights in the sky, and
Right.
so the extraterrestrials were there, or one
Right.
person found out that RCMP officer usually takes 10 minutes to go from his wherever he's at to the headquarters, and in a small town, and he took 20 minutes instead one time. So there is a UFO investigator that thinks that 10 minutes, I don't know, maybe he was talking to the aliens and with the government conspiracy and all that. But
Right.
it's funny. Don't just say somebody was 10 minutes late and so that means they did something, whatever. Um,
Yes. Yeah. There could be a
things like
logical
that.
reason, right? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be an area of high strangeness,
Yes.
except for the fact that it took him an extra 10 minutes. So, so Where do you guys want to start? I mean, we sort of bounced some ideas around, when we thought to put this show together. I love the whole parapsychology part. I mean, Elliott has spoken about that before and made an interesting comment tonight about what you're going to be talking about actually. Where has all the ghosts gone, or where's the real deep research? Do you think it's gotten too commercialized? You guys take it away. We're gonna just talk about everything. Better you debunk it than us.
Well, I wrote an article. I wrote an article called "Are Ghosts Extinct?"
Yes.
And it was because the fact that we're using technology which can't see a ghost, can't find a ghost. Ghosts used to appear, so you'd have somebody, depending on what era it was in our past, they would sometimes talk to people, sometimes they would not. And so anyway, you have to see them because technology is not going to help you. And we're going to talk about EVPs a little later, and I'll destroy that evidence. But it was, yeah, exactly.
I'm crushed.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep I'm just gonna get a piece of Scotch tape for my mouth. You go right ahead.
Yeah, if you want to go to, I think I have it on Ghost Project Canada. Yes, I do. Are Ghosts Extinct? And it's the article's there, and it just talks about
I'm
how
writing
things
that
have
down.
We'll
changed.
share it up. Yeah, if we can get it. We'll share it up on the pages. I think it's fascinating that you dare to venture.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I'm not the only one to say that technology, they're not doing science, they're doing technology. And you got to do the
Thank you.
science. But first, you got to find the ghost.
Right.
And unless you see one, you're not going to be sure there's a ghost. So,
Right.
a brutal believer, remember? And I believe in ghosts, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, we had a haunted house where, doors would swing open by themselves at a given time of the day, and they would converse with you, and you'd walk in the door. Well, hello. It's like, hello, and I live there. So, I definitely believe that they're there. I think capturing them is a
that's another
whole other
story.
thing. Yeah. So, all right, lead the way as to where you want to go. Do you guys want to just, discuss the technology? Do you want to just discuss what you do when you go into an investigation? Where does it start for you guys?
Well, like I said, like Daryll and I are anytime we do like a public talk or a podcast, we always touch on the two things, which is the equipment, which it's important, but let there be no mistake, there's no piece of equipment out there that can detect a ghost or human consciousness. People in neurology and parapsychology and all the different scientific fields still don't even really fully understand what human consciousness is, or where it comes from, or where it goes once you die. So that's all stuff that is still considered fringe science. With the equipment, an EMF reader is used to pick up electromagnetic fields. I just ordered for our organization actually a radiation detector, which would be good for UFO sightings, especially close encounter sightings, because a lot of people later on are RCMP files where they've, the Stephen Michalak case, for example, out in Manitoba, he had radiation sickness. They went back to the site.
Yeah.
The site was radioactive. So, it's an important tool to help you, but it doesn't prove that, a UFO was there. For example, I know in the Michalak case, the land was radioactive, but they also had other reasons why it could have been radioactive. There was a mine nearby, and there was talk about certain rocks and stuff like that. So, it's a tool to help you, but it's not the be all end all. And then the other thing that Daryll and I really tear up are the ghost hunting shows. Darryll's,
I do that too, but I can't name them.
I'll
get in trouble.
Yeah, I've been on enough and realize you have no creative control. They're going to do what they want.
And I can list them all.
Daryl's done more TV than I have, so he has a bit more experience with that. But I mean, I think he agrees with me that if you're watching those shows, it's for entertainment, or should be for entertainment purposes only. Unfortunately, there's people out there that believe it's all real, but
I think
people used to contact us and ask us about the paranormal, and then on comes all these shows, and it stopped because they think the shows are real and the evidence or that they have is true.
Yeah.
And the way they go about finding it is true.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just suddenly stopped. People just
Yeah.
stopped calling us, and because they thought they were getting it on TV. And
Do you
yeah,
think it's because it's just
dried
TV
up.
promotes that it's there, and you guys are promoting like, nah, don't be so hasty? I think people want that mystery.
Yep.
Mm.
I want it. I love it. I believe
Yeah.
in ghosts. I just don't know what they are.
Right.
There's
Right.
various reasons, for them, including human consciousness, because in near-death experiences, especially the British, pretty much have proved that our consciousness goes past death, because they had somebody that was past clinical death where you could revive, but they actually did revive them. And there was
Amelia's done it 4
nothing
times.
in the head.
Not
there
on
was
purpose.
no,
No.
yeah, not a thing
Not
going
on purpose. 3
and
times happened right after a surgery by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, she's died 4 times. Yeah, she could tell you.
yeah, it's
Two
So-
different occasions, 4 times in a file in the medical files. Yes.
cool.
No, it's
I
not.
forget his name in Britain, but
Yeah.
there is a guy that Sam, I think Bristol University, Sam Parna, I think it is.
Hmm.
He's the one who is leading near-death experience investigations or research in Britain.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean the evidence is there.
Right.
Human consciousness, whatever it is, goes on after death. And so, yeah, which is exciting to me. And that's something that science has proved. It's a scientific investigation of it. And so therefore, I have to pay attention to it. And I like near-death experiences anyway. It always captured me, ghosts, Bigfoot, and near-death experiences.
Well, I like the experiments that some of the hospitals have done in operating rooms, where they've put, signs up on top,
Yep.
even a running message. Every day they would change the message or the date. And somebody would ask, did I die? And they're like, well, I did. I think I was over the table. What, did you see anything else up there? And they could always relay the message. I find that super fascinating.
It is. And the thing is, okay, we prove consciousness goes beyond death.
Yes.
Now we have to figure out what's there. Where does it
Right.
go? The same thing if we found a ghost would have to appear, which means it would make, if we knew it has to be frequent, and it has to be in one spot, and it has to be so that you can be there every time the ghost shows up.
Right.
Let's say we did that. We found a ghost, we see it, it appears April 15th at 8:00. So anyway, we get the ghost. And at that point, we would have all the technology with us, because we want to know if the ghost is coming from some other realm. Then we want to measure that and see what it is when the ghost appears. And that's a real ghost, not
Right.
what the shows are saying.
Mhm.
And now that would be fascinating. There's very few, but there are some that supposedly show up every year or every whatever it is.
Well, the
And,
residuals. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's perfect, because you can be there ready. But the whole point is now, if it's human consciousness goes past death, where does it go? What does it do? And what is after death? So yeah, it's fascinating to see. And if they do come, they have to leave a track. They have to have. There will be evidence of them coming into our, world. So then that's the whole thing, and that's the gold standard, or the gold prize, is to be able to pinpoint what happens when a real ghost appears. And and of course, when they do, it's usually when all your stuff is somewhere else, or you're
Well,
just sitting down reading or whatever, or you're
it's the
walking.
skeptical guy that always gets to see the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's
No
like
kidding.
Elliott and I, saw this ghost of a woman walking down Slate Hill, and looked at us and walked across where the bridge used to be over a river. And yeah, I mean, which is just interesting,
That's
very
pretty
interesting.
cool.
But we didn't have any. My camera wasn't there. We were sitting down at a barbecue.
I know.
I
So
wonder
ghost
if it
walks
was residual or not.
Yeah.
And a ghost walks by, and it's like,
Yeah.
It sounds like one of those bad bar jokes.
Yeah, holy manure.
It sounds like
It's
the fish joke, you know,
Daryll and
the
Elliott
fish. I
sitting in
got
the
it was
bar,
this big, but I
Yeah.
didn't have a camera.
Do you
Well,
think?
yeah.
it is true.
No,
You
no,
know,
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
a lot of these things happen when you don't expect it.
Mm.
I think
You
there's a
know,
reason for that.
I know
Probably.
Daryl had seen, we were holding an event at the Westin Hotel, and
Oh yes. Can
uh,
I can I
yeah,
tell
yeah,
that?
go ahead, yeah, please do.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you, Elliot, but I want to tell it because I was the one who saw it. I
You were
had
also
never.
the one who forgot to go get the equipment in the room
Oh,
that we
shut up.
had.
Just yes, I know. I had never seen a ghost before, okay? Okay. So we're at the West End and we're having a very nice whatever supper and Elliot talking about and I was supposed to be helping him do that, but there was so much for us to go over and he was deep in the door just closed on its own.
Don't do that. Oh.
Uh
Wait, get
Do you
that
have any
equipment out.
that's kind of freaking me out. But
One brain
anyway,
here. Yeah.
so I left because I thought, well, I'll go and I'll take a walk. And there's something called I forget what the room's called,
Oh,
and
it was the Atlantic
Atlantic,
room.
the Atlantic room. So I walked in, and instantly I wanted to walk out, and I forced myself to walk into this room. And this room did not like me. I just had this feel. I've never had that before.
Were
I've
you
been in
afraid?
supposedly haunted places lots of times. I've never had this reaction, but I stayed. I forced myself to stay for a few minutes, and then as I turned to go, I saw the ghost of probably a boy in shorts and white shirt going underneath a table and a tablecloth. It was like all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, that's my first ghost. And so I left the room.
At least it
Other
was a
people came in
child.
the room and they didn't like it either. It was heavy on you. Probably it was electronic, but I don't know for sure because I forgot to go get the equipment. I went and got a couple people to come in the room with me to see if if they feel it. But I never thought to go get the damn equipment. Again, here I'm professional, and this was the first time, and it freaked me out.
Right.
Um, it seriously disturbed me for a long time after that, just because of the fact that I'd never seen a ghost. I see all this BS on TV, and it makes me want to scream. And so anyway, I gave up on the idea that anybody will find a ghost because they're all doing EVP crap. And there it was.
I've seen
It was
ghosts
like, oh
many
my
times,
God.
though. Like, I think you just have to be open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was very quiet. I wasn't very relaxed. And I
Right.
just, so I was receptive to, anything coming. But I don't know what was going on with that room. Elliot didn't want to go in the room, I think. There's something was going on in that room, and we really want to go back sometime. And then we were taken to other haunted places, but they didn't have the same sort of weight of something coming down on you, and obviously they didn't have any visual thing. But it disturbed me for a long time because I'm a scientist, although I believe in ghosts and Bigfoot and near-death experiences, obviously.
Right.
So it because there's so much BS out there, I never thought I'd see one.
hmm
And lo and behold, I see one.
Did it
And
change
it's
your
the first
mind even
time.
a little bit?
Well, the shows are still crap.
Well,
I
we
do
have a
believe,
documentary for you that you would not say that about. A friend of Michelle's, AD's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be something I think you'd both be interested in watching.
He does good documentaries. But, okay, so do you think, you had this experience, did that get your drive going even more so to just be,
yeah,
because you had an experience. A lot of people have an experience. They don't have equipment, right? They
yeah,
live at home and they're having this, and you've had this experience now. So you're like, oh God, okay, I was not ready, because you kind of, let's face it. I think when I saw my first, I think I was probably 4 when I saw my first one. I was a family member, so it's not like it was anything that would catch me off guard. But I think kids are braver than we are
yeah,
for the most part as adults, because we get conditioned through
Yeah.
life. So
Especially like, Elliot and I.
Yeah.
So, we're going into any investigation to do a science thing, and we're thinking in the back of our mind there's probably nothing to that will be able to really prove, this place is haunted.
Mm.
So, both of us, I wish Elliot was with me, because he would have been affected just as bad as I was. And
Mhm.
he can talk about a little bit about it. But, Dr. Walsh, the parapsychologist, freaked out, and it disturbed me. And my response when I analyzed it disturbed me because it was very unscientific.
It was very
Elliot's
human.
there talking about what we do and find a ghost. I see one, and I go get a couple people to come in the room. Why didn't I grab the equipment? But yeah, it disturbed me because I was unprofessional at the time, but that's the way it seems to happen. And yeah, it was my first ghost, honest to, ghost.
Well, I don't think we're programmed to react. We react, like Amelia said, in a human manner. We're not AI programmed to behave a certain way. When it
Yeah.
happens to you for the first time, it's like you're questioning first off if you even saw it, and then you're questioning what was it.
Oh, it's like a car accident. It's the same thing. You turn around and go, "What the hell?" Right? What happened?
The door slammed to the bedroom.
Again.
Yeah.
You need someone to go in there and clear it.
My roommate's in there, so he closed it because probably I'm talking loud. So.
Oh, okay.
But that has nothing to do with that door. That door closed on its own, and that damn door does it all the time. But I think it's just the way it is.
It
Elliot,
could be
you
a
can
vent.
talk about the room.
Could be your venting system in the house. Mine does that. The side door is on the opposite side of the house, and a different side of the house. And when you open and close it, my bathroom door, which is an ensuite, again, east-west, will open and close.
Yeah, with that room we talked about, it would have been nice to have gone back and just kind of followed up with the equipment, because when we went in, all the lights were turned off, so you had low lighting. The air conditioning was pumping because the room was absolutely freezing. And like I said to Daryll, with the studies that we know about now with infrasound and low lighting frequencies and things like that can cause people to experience haunting phenomena. We kind of kept batting back and forth, like, was it an apparition that you saw, or do you think it was something natural that might have caused you to see that apparition? So that's the problem, though, with parapsychological investigations is, in that case, like, we had the equipment on site but not readily available. Weren't expecting it. Can't repeat it. You can't yell out to the ghost, "Can you jump under that table again?" while we just get some recordings. So the type of work that we do, it's very spontaneous, and you just don't have that controlled environment. So
how did you feel, Elliot, going
I
in
didn't like the room at all. I
Yeah.
walked in and I felt like unwelcomed in there. It was very cold. It was very you just didn't feel like you should be there.
So maybe this wasn't friendly.
I don't think so. My mother had gone in and she didn't want to tell Daryll at the time. I told him later because he wasn't kidding. He was freaked out.
Yeah.
But she said she felt same thing, that whatever was in there was not nice. Even if it presented itself as a child, she felt that it was something malevolent. So
Yeah.
There were probably
Yeah, like a
something else
mimic.
besides the child. The weird thing was the room had a reputation of a boy bouncing a ball, basketball, go through the thing. So if I had seen that, then that would have made
Would have
sense.
been a bit
Instead,
different.
I saw a little boy going under the table because I was there. And so there might be multiple ghosts in that room.
Mhm.
And in which case, that's what the oppressive environment was.
Or do you think
But,
maybe that they would present as a child to throw you off guard,
possibly,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
try
maybe
to draw
they
you
know.
in?
Yeah,
They
possibly.
might have watched my shows and documentaries and that and said, okay, well, we're going to show him something. And,
Well,
and they
we
decided to do
know
it.
we know too that there is certain tragedies that have happened there. We were told there's a couple suicides that happened on the property throughout the years. I mean, it's a hotel, so stuff like that can happen.
A lot of stuff can go on there. How many
Yeah.
How old is that hotel too? And what happened on the land?
Very old. It's like downtown Halifax, like historic
Oof.
land. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
couple hundred years old for sure.
Close to the water.
I interviewed. Yeah, it is close to the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
The water
much
was
on
much closer before they built out to put the railroad and
Yeah.
and all the big things for the ships used to come in and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And the ships are now Carnival cruises and stuff like that.
It's
Right.
actually really close to like Pier 21. Which one of you researched your answer? Was it you, Amelia?
Yeah.
So it's actually fairly close to Pier 21. The
Yeah.
hotel.
See, and
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge. There's so much
that was
energy.
all water at one time. And so
Yeah.
the back of the hotel, there's a little, I think there's a parking, whatever, somewhere either just outside the parking or just inside the parking was the actual, where the water came up.
That makes sense because
Um,
it feels like there's still water under there.
yeah.
Mm.
So
And we know
it was
as
very
well that
close.
we know that water can cause certain
Yep.
phenomena as well. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that
Yeah.
heaviness, it's good that you paid attention to that because it probably kept you safe.
Listen, you couldn't ignore it.
No, that's
no.
scary.
couldn't.
I do agree with them on that. You felt it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary.
And
That's
he
scary
never
for
felt
anyone.
that before.
No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think they're dimensional, or do you think they're like maybe like a dimensional bleed through, as
Joe
Krista
likes to say.
It- It's hard to say because other people have reported different types of apparitions. Like the staff were telling us about the boy with the basketball. That's what Daryll saw. I interviewed a lady that used to work there. She saw a adult male that wears all black. He even had like a black fedora, black
Oh, crap.
trench coat. Didn't have like his. He wouldn't look up. Like when she opened the service elevator, which is meant for staff only. He was on there and he kind of had his face down, and she said, good evening to him, and he didn't look up, didn't talk to her. And then when she got down to the kitchen, because what had happened, she had rented a room for her parents because she works there, she get a discount. They had room service. She thought she'd be helpful because she works there. She brought the dishes down to the kitchen herself, so she used the service elevator. When she got on there, the man was on there, and then when she got to the basement to get off, she turned around and said goodnight to him, and he was gone. And there's nowhere to go. You're on an elevator, like he wasn't Bruce Willis climbing through
Oh,
the
can
the
you
air
imagine
vent.
going back to work after that?
Yeah. Well, they said they would get calls all the time at the front desk too, like that room wasn't made up, and that they went in, the room was like basically looked like it had been tossed, and they checked the records and the key entry logs, and it said no, the staff went in there and cleaned it, but something tossed
See,
the
it's
room
like
and
the
stuff like
it's
that.
like
So
the Fairmont in Ottawa.
yeah,
same
it would be
kind of
very
thing.
very
Yeah.
similar.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, it was
Amelia,
You
why are
very
should, you
so
should next
dark?
time you go, you should bring a ball for the kid. Don't take it back home with you because it's the wrong thing to do. But bring a basketball and see if anything, if there
Ellie,
is
like,
a
like a
child.
trigger
something-
object.
Yeah.
Didn't you take something from the spook farm in Caledonia Mills?
I
Didn't you
did.
take it and supposedly it will curse you? If you took
I-
anything from
I did.
the foundation, that's the only thing left now.
I
Yeah,
did
of a
so in
poltergeist.
the 1900
severe
early 1900s. There was the fire spook at Caledonia Mills, they call it. It was a poltergeist case.
Mm.
And it was on the McDonald farm. Mary Ellen McDonald was the little girl's name, where the activity kind of seemed to center around. And we had done a couple of investigations there when Darryll's organization, the Center for Parapsychological Studies in Canada, had organized an investigation there. And the only thing that remains there now is basically the old stone foundation. Everything else is gone. The family, after that incident, they had moved in with some people in town for a little while. Then they went back to their farm to try and live there again, but the activity sparked up again. And then after that, nobody ever lived in it again, and it just kind of fell apart. And the only thing that you can still see there is the old stone foundation. So there wasn't really much left there. But I had taken a little tiny piece of the foundation there, and I still have it in my PPRI file cabinets. And the folklore attached to the property was that if you took anything from the property, you would probably suffer some sort of fire disaster. And knock on wood, it's been 26 years. I've
Still
got
good.
that piece locked up, but I haven't had any experiences. But I
I
also
would
have
take a big piece.
Annabelle's also locked up, but
well, that's the thing. I also have other stuff in my office too. I've got
Yeah.
a painting that a lady had contacted us about in Ontario, and she had this painting that she had painted during a very dark time in her life. It's got a lot of beautiful reds in it, and it's like this doorway. It's like this tiny little doorway, and basically, she hung up on the wall, and it would keep flying off her wall. It actually struck her husband. They got freaked out. They contacted us. I said, well, listen, I said, because she asked about destroying it and stuff like that. And I explained to her, if it is a vessel for some sort of entity, then destroying that is not going to really change anything.
You
It's
think
just kinda,
maybe psychokinesis, and she put her energy into it while painting it? Like, did all
very,
of this stop when she gave you
it,
the painting?
it did. And
Oh,
even
okay.
trying to get it to me, it was crazy. So she had gone to Staples to get like the packaging product, and she
Mm,
was almost T-boned by a vehicle on her way there. And then so
mm.
she gets it home, she packages it up for me, leaves it in the SUV or the van, sorry, because she's going to the post office the next day. Later that night, she sent me the pictures of her van. Someone had tried to break into the van, ripped the door handle right off of the van.
Jeepers.
And then while she's at Canada Post, she was trying to text me to see how I wanted it sent, because I said I'll pay for the shipping or whatever.
Mm.
And so there was the different options, right? Like the next day, which was like
Yeah.
probably $3,000.
Yeah,
And then,
that's how it is in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
and
Post office.
as she was trying to tell me, her phone kept resetting on her and acting up. And eventually, she got the message through, and I said, "Yeah, just send it regular. I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars for it," kind of thing. But I've got it in my office. I haven't had any issues. And then I also have the haunted monkey Joe that family wanted to get rid of, and they actually had to lock it up in a trunk because they said every time they go to work, they'd come home and the thing was in a different position. And
Ugh, I
it
can't
works.
handle stuff like that.
It
Yeah.
it works right next
It's
to
like that monkey shines monkey.
yeah.
Oh my god, it's
It,
like Robert the doll and
it
Annabelle.
works.
They both moved, right?
They both did, yes. And
Yeah.
allegedly, this monkey has. But Sarah, my wife, who's also a member of PPRI, she works next to it Monday to Friday up here in my office. And she said it's never made a noise
It's
or
pretty
moved or
quiet.
anything like that. So I mean,
Mm.
that's the thing about the paranormal, is it's so spontaneous. You just never
Well,
know.
But I think
and
it
they
reacts to different people. I've had haunted objects that do absolutely nothing, and the family swears up and down. Like, I mean, multiple witnesses within the family. This thing moves, or this thing makes noises. I come
It's
home and
sometimes it's a one shot deal. Like Daryll,
yeah,
Daryl's got a really cool story. I'll let him tell it about a family rocking chair, and tell them a story about that. But that only ever happened the one time.
No, it happened a lot, but not. I'm not from. I'll start at the beginning. I also have a haunted picture. It's called of a little boy, and an Italian painter did a bunch of them, and supposedly it'll burn down your house if you have one of the pictures.
oh,
And I
that little
forget what it's
boy.
called. But anyway, it's up on the wall, and he
Right.
hasn't done anything, fire yet. But the rocking chair. My parents, one was from the Annapolis Valley, but one was from Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. And Cape Breton is like Newfoundland. It's completely different from the rest of the Maritimes. They still have the old beliefs and the old stories, from when people actually came. So, a rocking chair actually is apparently was apparently quite common. So what had happened was, in my mother's house, my grandmother's house, they would see it rock a little bit, but it rocked one time for 4 days, really just distinctly, like somebody was in that for 4 days.
Hmm.
Those 4 days were how long it was for the authorities in the war to send the telegram to say that one of your sons died. And this was 1945. And once they came, the rocking stopped.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
so anyway, it has a follow-up. So of course I want, anything that's haunted. When the house, mom was going to clear out the house. My grandmother had died long time ago, And finally, my uncle Aloysius, who got me into this because he used to give me all his ghost books and stuff like that when I was 8, 9, 10. So it's him, Aloysius Burke, that did it. And I wish I'd spent more time with him, and I wish I'd gone down to talk about it. But life's like that. Anyway, so I said to Mom, I want the rocking chair. So I got the rocking chair. So anyway, put in the room, and I was teaching parapsychology at the time. And somebody, I was interviewed about it, and because there was nobody else ever taught in Halifax, so anyway, they asked me about the rocking chair, and I told the story, and they said, "Well, has it rocked for you?" And I said, "I can't get the living in my bedroom, let alone the dead." And
Oh, invitation.
rented it.
It's funny, but it's an invitation. It was really funny, though.
Oh, way to go,
Yeah, I was
girl.
hoping somebody would call me and want to go on a date, but it was spontaneous, like I can't get the living in here, let alone the dead, and yeah, that was actually one of my funny stories I would tell, but only one newspaper published it word for word. So I've still got it. It's no, it's right behind me. And oh God, I got.
Oh, I was going to ask what that is.
I move. This will kill my back. Yeah. Anyway, I've got Bigfoot.
Oh, I have one of those
Aw,
too.
I need a Bigfoot. I've got a
Likewise.
Yeti, but not a Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's the Yeti. I love
So
it.
yeah, it's right there. It doesn't rock. Maybe it likes Bigfoot. And I've wished it, but anyway, yeah, I had to have it because
Yeah.
sometimes that's what happens. It happens, and it happens a lot, and then it stops for no
Right.
reason. No reason to start, no reason to stop. Now, in this case in Cape Breton, there was a reason. It was the 4 days, and probably my uncle was trying to, come
A
back.
loved one trying to reach
Yeah,
out.
and
Right.
and a few years ago, my sister and brother-in-law went to the cemetery where he was buried, war cemetery, and it was 1945, and it was less than a month and a half before it ended, and that's like you lose your son when it's
Mm.
that's of course that was the British dimwit that sent the Canadians into the Scheldt to take the area, and
Mhm.
stupid, but that was his thing. But yeah, so I mean, and then I saw the ghost, and it just happens, and that was an extraordinary event. But
Mhm.
maybe I could go in that room later, maybe tomorrow, let's say, and nothing would happen. It just sometimes you're running it's almost like that whack-a-mole something
Yeah.
pops up, and when you're
I'm
at
Yeah.
really
the
good at
circus
that
or
game.
whatever it is,
Right.
now then it's ghost, so your ghost pops up, you go for the equipment, it's gone,
Yeah.
it's almost like
Well,
whack-a-mole.
let's talk about the equipment. Let's talk about the equipment because I was saying before you came on to Elliott, I used to do events. I would buy, if I saw it on television, I would buy it and I would include it in events because people were curious about it. And I'd say,
Yeah.
this is how much it costs. If this is what you're after, you can do something a hell of a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay ridiculous amounts of money. And does it work? I've tried it. No, does not work. Or does it work? Mad does what they tell you it's going to do, but
Yeah.
is it going to get you the results that is it anything definitive? Like it's just because people I felt needed to see this stuff, just to
Yeah.
try it and see. It's not what you think it is. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about, or a lot of bit, whatever you want to,
Well,
about all this stuff
well,
that's out.
Well, one interesting thing about the equipment thing is there is some stuff out there that is just a complete ripoff. I know Kenny Biddle, he's a writer for the Skeptical Inquirer, very big skeptic, taught me on one of my parapsychology courses. There's a ghost ball where allegedly you ask the ghost to touch the ball and it lights up and whatnot. So he ended up purchasing one of these, and he's like, these look familiar, like I've seen this before. And literally what it was a cat toy that was just
Oh.
just repackaged into a ghost product, and they were
Mhm.
using it as a ghost. But it was like a ball that if a cat batted it, then it would light up. That's all. That's all that it
Mhm.
was.
Right.
And unfortunately, and Kenny couldn't believe that people were paying like $6.99 for this thing, because you can go to the dollar store and get cat ball.
Yeah.
One interesting thing though about the equipment, and I'm not a big fan of the Xbox Connect technology that a lot of
I've
people
got
are
one, never
using.
tried it.
W-
No,
Yeah,
It's
yeah, a lot
one
of
of
people
those
use it. That's the
show
one
and
you
tell
see.
things. Yeah.
That's the one you guys see on the show where it's got like the stick figures dancing and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
yeah.
But on our podcast, the Dueling Parapsychologist podcast, Daryll and I interviewed a gentleman that lives in Bothell, Washington. His name's Keith. Very interesting guy. He underwent kind of like a terrible like poltergeist experience.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the things that he had talked to Daryll and I about was he was a tech engineer for Microsoft, and they were testing out the Xbox Connect equipment before it was released to the public.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so he told us that they had the system at his house. They had a bunch of Microsoft techs there that were recording all the data and watching him play it and make sure there's no glitches before
Yeah.
it goes to market and stuff like
You
that.
think it's harmless?
And they had a really strange experience while they were there. They started to see these black unexplained orbs appear on the technology. And
Mm.
Daryll thought that was really fascinating because he has like, you don't really hear about black orbs. Usually
Mhm.
it's like white orbs or a white light or
Well, you get
whatnot.
colored ones, but I guess depends on the lighting, right?
Yeah, but and it was interesting because we were, of course, like we're like, oh, I wonder if we can get the data and stuff like that. But I guess Keith could only talk to us about it so far because he did sign like a non-disclosure agreement with Microsoft. But we did find that very fascinating.
Mhm.
I'm not big on orbs, like like if somebody sees a ball of light or whatever in a room, that's different. But like the ghost pictures that people send you, like where it's just dust and water particles and stuff like that. But
Dander.
Dander, exactly, or dust.
Yeah.
Daryll really found these black orbs like absolutely fascinating. I'll let him kind of like
Yeah.
explain why.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
like what?
Yeah, I mean, orbs are, have been debunked ever since the early 2000s, and so but they still show up a lot, and they are usually white or transparent, and that's the way it's been, as long as since I've been professional since 1996, but
Mhm.
I was doing stuff earlier. Yeah, so I mean, or I knew all about orbs, and different from ghost lights that move. I'd love to see that in a swamp or something. But and then he was talking about black orbs, and it's like that was fascinating to me that there would be essentially a new phenomena or a change in the phenomena.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it did fascinate me. Unfortunately, of course, we don't have access to the house. That's always the way.
Right. Right.
And yeah, so we can't do anything about it. But we'll report it probably, and
Mhm. What
it'll
about?
go into Ghost Project Canada, and somebody sometimes will look at the stuff and maybe do
Well, maybe
something
it's like
about it.
a connects thing. Maybe it's just the way the lens is. It's like looking at a negative, for instance. Like, I wonder if it's that sort of an
That
idea.
was before he had it. Those were before they had set up the equipment, if I'm not
Oh, got
mistaken.
it.
I
Got
can't
it.
quite remember, but yeah,
Right.
it
Right.
was
What's your
that
take
did
on like really colored orbs? Like bright
what's that?
pink ones or blue ones or purple
Pink and
ones?
blue ones?
I have heard of blue lights, like strange blue lights.
Yeah.
But I also saw a case that Lloyd Auerbach had investigated as well, and the people were complaining that there'd be like a flash of light and then like the couch would catch on fire and stuff like that. And when he went and investigated, he found out there was a multitude of things wrong with the house. Some architect decided to do some fancy designs with it. It was
Mm.
built on a landfill, so there was methane gas coming
Change
up
the
from the
feng
ground.
shui around. Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
also like a very dry and staticky environment. So what the people were seeing was the static electricity interacting with the methane gas, which was then causing like the couch and the walls to kind of like spark
Mhm.
up and catch fire, right? So
Mhm.
um, you know those, I kind of tend to be more interested in those types of orbs rather than those ghost photos that you get,
Right.
because even if you can't see it
Photos
with
are
your
hard.
eyes,
not
They're
like
very hard.
video.
There was one night my two dogs were outside using the washroom late at night, and they were doing something kind of funny. So I went to take a picture of it, and it was a clear night. And then in the photo, there was a ghost mist in the photo.
Mist and
But it,
pollen.
but I also lived in St. Margaret's Bay, which is like 2 minutes from the ocean. So obviously it was very damp there, even though I couldn't see it or feel it. But it was in the air because every photo I took.
St. Margaret's Bay is supposed to be very haunted anyway. We have everything from buried treasure to a hanging tree to a ghost ship, and then there's
sea monsters too.
Yeah, and so there's lots of stuff there anyway. I and a friend went to the same year Mom was dying. I had taken care of her for 10 years, and when she had cancer, and she beat cancer. She's quite famous because she was the first one of this new medicine, and she went into remission so fast. It was almost a miracle. So I told her, you're going to be patient X. They're going to teach about you. Anyway, this was 2018, and her time, she was 90, and the time was up. We could tell. And I had taken care of her. And so anyway, my other sister, they would always go on cruises and everything and that kind of thing. And, I was home. So I said, I was stressed out, needless to say. And so I said to Carol, I said, I'm going on vacation next week. And I don't know who's taking care of Mom, but it's not going to be me. And so anyway, we went and we actually stayed. And I actually stood where a ghost ship is supposed to come up on the land at Spry Bay, and it was really cool, but no ghost ship, unfortunately. And but anyway, Carol spoiled Mom, and so therefore, when I got back, my workload was twice as big.
Right, of course it is.
Mom did, and God love her, and but Mom did what she wanted. She died at home in her bed, and very quickly. Within 5 seconds. So, but we knew, and I have regrets that I didn't bring a priest in, little things like that. It's interesting. I didn't know just before Mom died, I asked myself, do I believe in God? Because I've been a scientist and I want to see evidence and stuff like that. And there's no evidence for God. There's lots of beliefs, but no true evidence. And when Mom died, I instantly knew she was up in heaven with Dad. It just came in, and then I wouldn't say overjoyed, but I was pleased that I still had faith. I'm a Roman Catholic, and it was very, and also it was very nice and soothing because the fact I knew now she was with Dad, and which is good, and because they loved each other terribly, and but I want 5 minutes with Dad. Talk to him before when I'm dying. I got a couple of things that he really screwed up my life, unintentionally, but he threw books out that were I could use, or he did whatever, and he never threw books out, but he did that before he died, and anything I really need, which he should have had. So I want like
it's always a way.
I want 5 minutes to go, still be human. Shit. And then, move on in forgiveness and all that stuff.
But I think it's great. I think when you're dealing with death in one form or another, it does make you, it grounds you a little bit. I mean, my mother was telling me stories of visiting with my father before she even passed. The moment my mother passed, my sisters within minutes got, like, he's in he has Alzheimer's, so he's in assisted living, long-term care. The home phoned him, my sister, and said, we need to sedate your father. He's become very violent and he's hitting. And we're just like my mother had literally passed within 2 to 3 minutes, and they're like, oh, yes, okay. And they went to see her or him the next day. And he was just pointing and trying to communicate with my sisters to show them. But my mother had already said, no, I've been visiting with your father for the last week, when we knew she was on the verge of passing. So I don't know, the essence definitely doesn't stay hostage in the physical. I truly believe it moves around even prior to
that whole 1 foot here, 1 foot there
maybe.
thing.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I believe in
prior,
that.
That was quite common. in old stories about
Yes.
people would show up before they died.
Hmm.
And so they're called a wraith, and so everybody would
Yeah.
know. And of course, there was many things like 3 knocks on the door and
Well,
various other
those are
things.
fun. It's
Yeah,
like great.
and
Yeah.
I experienced that once, but and there are various other things at the folklore in Cape Breton and Newfoundland,
Yeah, I love it
and
though.
so one of that kind of. In fact, I have a book called Deathbed Visions, and
Mhm.
because that fascinates me, the
Right.
before, during, and after.
Boy, can we
As
tell you stories.
a 10-year-old boy and the parapsychologists both agree
Hmm.
these are really sweet things to investigate,
Right.
and so it's really kind of funny.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really interested in what your experience, for instance, that
Mhm.
or what the story you were telling,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's fascinating, and you can't get it. It's not like you can film it or something.
My mother
Um,
was being visited by my father within months of him going into assisted living, and she could physically.
There
She
was
says
nothing wrong with her.
no, she was fully
Yeah.
sane, and I
Yeah.
mean she died of a heart issue basically. So it's eluding me, so I won't waste time on it. But within months. And he would just, I guess, project. But she said, I'm fully awake. I haven't fallen asleep. And I could touch him and it was physical. I'm like, okay, I need to find out what's going on up here. We need to talk about that. She's like, I was awake. I'm sane. And he was there. He didn't look right, but he was there. That happened on 2 occasions. So we're talking that energy projection. Again, I think, like you say, your mother and father loved each other so much. Same with mine, but they were apart for 3 years before she passed.
Weird
Physically.
stuff. I was almost a weird shit. Started right after when Mom died, and
Yeah.
I was here in this apartment, and a glorified hotel room, and so anyway, weird stuff has happened. Now, like the door doing that
Mm,
thing, but seeing something and hearing my roommate come home, and he's not here.
mm,
And so anyway, 20 minutes later, he comes home, and I hear exactly what he was going to do. Very similar, of course, to in Cape Breton, the stories about that they would hear the construction of the coffin of the box for
right,
somebody, and there was nobody there, but they knew that the next day or whatever somebody was going to die in the family,
right.
and
Like an omen.
they heard the
Hmm.
undertaker.
Omen or forerunners. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and those are fascinating to me, really fascinating to me. Again, deathbed
Right.
visions before and type
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
forerunners I always thought would scare me. But it didn't, and I've never had one.
Right.
And it turns out that I had the gold prize to see a physical ghost, and because I couldn't see through him. He was real,
Solid. Yeah.
solid. And so
Hmm.
that's what a ghost is. Yeah, and
Right.
that's the thing. If you take a picture or video of something, unless it pops in and disappears, you're not going to know it's a ghost, if you don't know the person and the place. So many of us could have seen a ghost
Hmm.
and not known it,
Right.
you know, that,
If they're solid, yeah, you wouldn't
yeah,
know.
so
So
we take it as just as somebody else. Oh,
Yeah.
we were at CPSC. We were having a Christmas party in 2001, I believe, and we were at a house that 2 of my researchers, Don and Carol Lee, partly owned, and it was supposed to be haunted. So anyway, we did all the. I was actually interviewed there and heard voices prior to the. I heard somebody ask a question. It was a woman, and I think it was a male that answered it, but it was very quick, and I didn't get the words, but I got the tone, so you knew it was a question. Will you go to the store? Yes, okay, that kind of thing.
mhm.
So anyway, John, a friend of ours, was there, and we were getting ready and bringing the stuff and all that stuff. And he said, who? Everybody came in finally to the living room. He said, "Where's the other guy?" And we said, "What other guy?" He said, "Well, the guy that was in the kitchen just went downstairs, and in downstairs in the basement." and we all stared at him because I may thought, well, maybe there was a friend, but the ones who lived there just said there isn't anybody else but us. So, but it was
Yikes.
solid. It was a solid person that walked across the kitchen and went down in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and it just happens like that, and you don't have. Even if you videotaped it, who's going to say that? How can you say it's a ghost? It's solid. So there's more issues in trying to.
You're darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't. So, what kind of equipment would you recommend using, since there's all this irrelevant stuff?
None.
A Polaroid camera.
I always say, a pencil and a lot of common sense, pencil, paper, common sense. But, so in your opinion, take a camera to try to capture this. We've used Polaroid. You can't really fudge a negative until you get it to a computer, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
I
would you
think it's
do that?
important. I think it's important to take certain things like, for example, I do think that the EMF reader is an important tool, and it's only because I've been to some places that were allegedly haunted houses and some places that were haunted houses where the EMF reader has detected a problem with the house, not
Not the
ghost.
spirit.
And
And
Daryll has as well, and I think I've told his story before, but he found an alarm clock next to somebody's bed that was giving off excessive amounts
Yes.
of
so you
EMF readings.
would you agree that you should really do your research and learn how to use them and understand baselines and
Absolutely.
understand? I think a lot of investigators need to do their research on the place they're investigating, know what kind of wiring there is, know what's running where. That's important.
Have a
It's
home
not
inspector
just
on your team, maybe.
First,
but even just plans. If it's a historical building, you can find those things out, and knob and tubing is going to create more issues than something else. Like, know your stuff. It's not that television program that's beep beep, it's higher. There's a ghost here. No, there's an outlet there.
Yes.
So I'm always looking at more common sense than. Even though I'm a medium, I'm very skeptical.
Well, I definitely, you're 100%.
That's because
right.
the paranormal is very ESP, and that is rare and it's weak. And so, if you're a medium, you might never ever meet a real medium. So, the paranormal is hard to pin down. But yes, I would bring a camera and with me.
Definitely a camera. I think the EMF reader, like I said, I found wiring that was unshielded, that was giving off excessive amounts. But I think you need to know what the tools you're using are, what they do and what they're for. So, for example, you need to know about some of the parapsychological studies. And that's why on Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigations website, I created a resource section. So there's a resource section, and then there's a section where I've added the scientific studies and in brackets, I kind of like in a one-liner, I kind of summarize why that article is important. So, for example, there's a Michael Persinger article on there, which has shown that geomagnetism can cause people to experience hallucinations, even see apparitions, both of people that they know and also religious figures like Jesus and the Virgin Mary, because he created what's called the God helmet, where there was electrodes on.
I own one. Never tried it. Never been used, but
I've got one. I've got one too, and I have not fired it up yet.
No, it came with a disclaimer. It's like,
It's actually, I do want to use it. We ordered it a couple years ago, and we just haven't had time.
I've got one of the original.
I want to use the drug. I want to use the drug ketamine because it supposedly gives you a near-death experience.
You sound like flatliners.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you know what?
That's what you have to do.
But
it's totally unethical. They will never let you do it. But that's what you have to do.
Unless you're Kiefer Sutherland and Julia Roberts, or the remake. But near-death experiences are fascinating, but scary as hell when you're the one going through it. And there's a lot of studying to be done on that still.
I think with the God helmet and things of that nature, it's to give you the sense of feeling psychic. Right?
Yes, well,
it sense to.
Doesn't the ayahuasca do that too?
It's supposed
I don't
to.
know.
Mushrooms.
I don't know.
If you use it and you turn it on to a certain frequency, it is supposed to open up kind of your psyche. So
Yes.
it would be really interesting to kind of do some experiments with it. That's why we got it. We wanted to kind of do some experiments with it. We
Right.
just haven't had the time or the
Yeah.
resources to do
Yeah.
it.
You can do that yourself without that.
Yeah.
No,
You
it's-
can
That's one
open up
important
yourself
thing.
and practice to, you know,
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
further advance your psychic abilities.
The
You
other
forgot one thing about when we were talking about flatliners. Kevin Bacon had really nice tight jeans in that movie.
He was great in Footloose too.
Yeah. But
Um,
anyway,
the other piece of equipment that I find interesting as well are thermometers. When people take those thermometers to investigations, because I've actually had experience where I felt a cold spot, but the equipment doesn't pick it up, which is very common in a paranormal investigation. Is that you may perceive that the temperature's dropped or increased,
yeah.
but the equipment is not picking it up itself. So
What about just a basic thermometer?
Yeah,
Ones used for the
I
oven.
know somebody used to use a turkey thermometer. How
Yep.
about that?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people just go to like your home hardware or Home Depot and just pick up like a digital thermometer or
Yes.
old school thermometer.
Yeah.
We did purchase a FLIR camera because I told you guys a story about
I've
the
got
house
them. I love them.
in
Yeah.
in Exeter, where I saw something turn a doorknob
Mhm.
and there was nothing on the other. And I often wonder, if I had the FLIR there, would you have seen like a handprint on
They're
the doorknob?
No.
very good piece of equipment.
I like them.
Yeah,
I
they are
do. I
very,
like
very good.
them.
And I mean, when I was a police officer, we used to use FLIR all the time. You used to find
Yes.
it missing people in the woods because you'd pick up the heat
Yes.
signature.
Yes.
Back when cannabis was illegal, you'd use it to detect grow ops because you'd see that 1 or 2 rooms in the home smoking
Yeah.
hot. So
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
That and the hydro bill.
From space.
Yeah.
I know.
yeah, it is a very
Yeah.
handy tool. Those are a
Yes.
bit more pricey. I mean, to get the handheld one, you're probably looking at anywhere from $300-$600. But there are some pieces of equipment that I think are important, but you need to
Mhm.
know what they do, and
Mhm.
it's
And
not
how to use them.
and how to use them. It's not to find ghosts. It's to kind of rule out all that stuff that we know can cause people to see ghosts.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide's another one. There was 2
I
cases.
always just have a
Huge.
detector in my kit.
Yep. There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
there was 2 cases where one was a
Yeah.
lady in a shower. I've told the story before.
Yeah.
She's showering and an apparition appeared in the shower with her, and they found out that her new hot water tank that she had installed was installed improperly, giving off excessive amounts of carbon monoxide. So
Mhm.
for our organization, we bought a gas detector, and it
Right.
detects 4 different types of gas. It'll tell you the oxygen level, carbon monoxide,
Right.
Smart.
H2S gas, which is interesting because that has a sulfuric smell. So if you're investigating, an alleged dynamic haunting and people are reporting the smell of sulfur,
Excellent. I like that.
yeah, it'll detect that as well, right? So
Yeah.
there are all these little tools you can kind of have in your toolbox. But
Mhm.
I really do think the most important tool is doing your research on the parapsychological studies that are being done, and you can access all that stuff online. There's archive.org
Mhm.
that you can pull up old journals of parapsychology and SPR, the Society for Psychical Research, and then there's even just Google Scholar. You can just set
Mhm.
what year you want and type in anything. Type in apparition, type in psychokinesis, and it'll give you all the current papers and studies. And
Mhm.
some of them are very dry and very technical, but I mean, if you can kind of get through some of that stuff and kind of get to the point of what the paper is, you'll
But
find it very fascinating.
it's easy to come up and find. Like we worked with a lot of people. I mean, God, if I had $1 or 1,000 for every time I met somebody in my travels who was projecting energy, it's
Mm.
hard for them to grasp. I mean, you could say psychokinesis till the cows come home. Some people would rather think there's just, some big malevolent being than they believe that more than they would believe I'm a powerful individual that can project out this crazy amount of energy to create, footsteps and doors slamming and
Exactly.
Think about if
When
you
you
could put
mentioned
that all
Michael
together.
Persinger and Dr. Persinger, we interviewed him for my show, Shadowhunter, and which I was the host. And I mean, I've been a master's level trained clinician, although I never practiced because ghosts came and took care of that.
Nah.
And so anyway, I couldn't understand what he was talking about at all because he's so into neurology and evolution and biology and all that stuff. And there've been so many advances to the brain that there's so many different places now. So it's like, and it was a long time ago that I, had taken
Neuroscience.
neurobiology, something, psychology or something. Anyway, I respected him a lot, and he was on a lot of shows in the 90s,
Mm.
and he did a lot of more skeptical than but he believed. And one time he was talking to one of his students, and she was on the other side of and he watched her pencil move to him.
Mm.
Now, psychokinesis, prior to hearing that, I didn't believe in psychokinesis really, although I didn't have anything to really base my disbelief on. It was just, I was young and it was just an impression. But I respect him, and he's dead now. But if he said he saw that, assuming the table was stable and this kind of thing,
Mm.
if he said that, then there's something to it.
Right.
Because I respected them.
Right.
And so I'm more open-minded now to psychokinesis, but I still want to talk about EVP.
Well, we're going to do that after. We have to do a station and sponsor ID,
Yeah,
Okay.
somebody's
or
got
we're
to pay
going to
the
be
bills.
scolded. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's got to pay the bills. So
Oh
just
gosh,
one
yeah.
second.
It takes our chat room to remind us. We get lost in the conversation. Like, oh
It
yeah,
happens. It
work.
happens.
Yeah.
On that note, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans. Am I saying that right? New Orleans is, I know,
New Orleans.
I'm a
New
tourist.
Orleans,
I'm
I
going to
know.
say it that way. On 105.3 and 107.7 FM radio, we are also live and archived on Roku. So if you're watching us on Roku right now for the first time, hello and welcome. And thank you for joining us. And please share this with your friends. Our guests, that's two of them tonight, are Elliott Van Dusen and Darryll Walsh, both doctors. Let me correct that. Dr. Van Dusen and Dr. Walsh. And we have been discussing a lot of they've been sharing their experiences with us. And we don't like to use the word debunking, but they're kind of doing that switch. If you're just tuning in and you feel bad because you've missed the first part of the show, no worries, because you can stream our archives on any platform you normally use. Any platform. There's about 250 of them. So anything, just go in, search United Public Radio, and then search The Outer Realm, and you'll be able to listen to our shows. And you can go in and listen to the other archives with Dr. Van Dusen on as well. Don't forget to share us with your friends. A huge thank you and big shout out to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for continuing to sponsor our show. And they've been there for us since the beginning. We are so grateful. Thank you so much. Also, a thank you and shout out for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon. Justin Snicker is an award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and check him out on Facebook and Instagram, where he's dropping clips of his music every day. He's sharing them with you. And you can also find him on any streaming platform that you use. Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon. Now, this is the one where I sound like I'm scolding everyone. If you are watching us on Facebook Live or on YouTube, please hit that like button. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click subscribe and share.
We done? Oh, you just stopped dead. I'm still sitting
Because
there
I
waiting for
wasn't
more.
sure if you were going to go into the Halifax Paranormal Symposium.
It's right up there for everyone to see.
Yes,
but yeah, we're
but
going to
for
give
those
the
that
guys
are
a chance
listening,
to plug it. And
yes.
yes. So
That's
before
coming
we
up
get into,
again when?
Yeah, you guys go for
October?
that.
Yeah, sure. It's going to be Saturday, October 7th of this year in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's a full day from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. We have 5 guests. Darryll Walsh is going to be a guest speaker. Chris Stiles, Dr. Richard Gallagher, Lauren Coleman, and Kim Mosier. I'll be the master of ceremonies. So I will also be there and present. It's going to be a great day. Tickets are on sale at ppri.net/tickets. We will also have some vendors there. There's a couple of investigative teams coming down from New Brunswick. There will be a local metaphysical shop selling products there. PPRI and Ghost Project Canada will have a table there as well to explain what we do and our missions. And I think it's going to be a really good networking opportunity for like-minded individuals.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
I can't wait to see all the
So,
pictures.
we're going to get back to basics before we get into the EVPs, because I know that one's just going to throw everybody into a tizzy. Let's talk a little bit about the Philip experiment and what your thoughts are on that, because people really lean to that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm curious to hear.
yeah.
Well, let's hear
That's
Daryl's
different.
version, because Daryl's not as big on the Phillips experiment as I
I
am.
figured not.
So we'll hear
All right.
Daryl's version, and then we'll hear the truth.
Okay.
Oh,
I've
really?
never done it, so they're both news to me.
Oh, really? Okay. The Philip experiment is famous. It took place in Toronto, I believe, in Canada. And this group of people around the table decided to try to materialize some beings, a
Sounds like
tulpa,
the
actually.
skull or the tulpa.
Yeah. So they allegedly did that. Took a long time. They allegedly did that. And I can't remember. It's been too long since I did the research, and I've thrown it out of my head because it was obviously BS. But yeah, I don't think they interacted with them. I can't quite remember. But anyway, supposedly they did this, and this being, this black, being type of thing. And I think it's BS, just because, if we could do that, I would have slept with a Hollywood star many times.
Well, let's look at Slender Man. He's a tulpa. There was so much intention and manifestation.
Yeah, that was
Do
a
you not think you
university
could?
student.
Is it possible to manifest something through that much intention? There were sightings of that guy
No,
everywhere.
because everybody would be winning the lottery, and they'd all be, dating, the stars from Hollywood.
I'm doing it wrong, man.
So because
I'm just gonna zip.
everybody fantasizes about somebody just as strong as people did in the Philip
Right.
experiment,
Right.
and they obviously didn't sleep with them. So so that's my reason why it can't work.
Okay.
And if they'd all got around the table and moved something with their mind, that's a different thing altogether. Like maybe they got together and the pen went across the room. That would be interesting,
Right.
because of Michael Persinger's. So yeah, that'd be. But the way nah, it didn't happen. I don't think it happened.
Okay,
And,
Elliott.
yeah,
So-
this is funny because this is as strong as I've ever got for being dueling with Elliott, and we like each other too much. So when we're doing the show, we really don't get into you're full of and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Well,
And
it's two
because
different
we're-
opinions.
Yeah,
It is. So
different opinion, but we
I have
gotta
a
get
different.
stronger.
I think
So anyway,
I think
he's gonna
Elliott
tell the
believes in the
BS
law of
version
it.
of it.
No, I think Elliott believes in the law of attraction.
Well, see, and that's the thing. So what these guys did is they were called the Toronto Society for Psychical Research, which was not a part of the actual Society for Psychical Research, because when I talked to SPR over in the UK, they were aware of them and obviously aware of the Phillips experiment, but they said that the two organizations are not related. So they basically had a parapsychological office, and they decided to kind of create. They want to see if they could create their own ghost, or like you guys said, a tulpa. So they gave Philip this fake background and story, and every day they come in the office, they talk to Philip. They sit around the table, talk to Philip, and pretend that he's real. And eventually, what started happening is that they were able to get knocks to occur on the table, and they were able to get Philip, this fictional character, to respond to their questions through these knocks. And they actually, there's clips on YouTube where they invited in the media to come and kind of listen, and you can hear some of the knocks on the recording. Now, the one interesting thing is that when they sent those recordings off to SPR or elaborate some sort of audio engineering laboratory to have them analyzed. The knocks that were recorded were different than if you were to take your knuckles and knock them on the table. The acoustic patterns were
Right.
different with poltergeist. And the other interesting thing is that we know from the Enfield poltergeist case, the same thing with those types of knocks, that the knocks that they recorded in there have a different acoustic. So when a poltergeist, and again, poltergeist has two different terms too. So in North America, we believe that a poltergeist is caused by a living person. And over in the
Projection
UK,
of energy.
yes, it's a projection of energy,
Okay.
or it's mind matter interaction. So it's your mind interacting with matter, something. Over in the UK, they believe that it could be that, or they also think that it could be a ghost. They think
because it
like,
comes from the Germanic name, right?
yeah,
Poltergeist, noisy
noisy
ghost.
ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the UK kind of uses the term interchangeably, but over here in North America, if I'm talking to my colleagues and I mention poltergeist, they know that I'm only talking about recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis.
Right.
So I do think that study is important because it's kind of consistent with, the Enfield poltergeist case, which Daryll actually has gone over to England and spoken to some Guy Playfair and got to listen to the actual recordings and stuff like that. So I know that he likes the Enfield case as opposed to kind of like the Phillips experiment. But I find that they're very similar. The only other thing that kind of tops that is the skull experiment, which I think Michelle just briefly mentioned there, because
Yes.
they kind of started out like the Phillips experiment, but they were actually able to get crazy stuff happen. They actually had items appear and disappear and apport in the room and things like that. And it wasn't there was no fraud ever proven in the skull experiment. SPR had investigators there. And in fact, when you watch the documentary, which is also available on YouTube, it's a little bit harder to find, but it is still there. There was at one point the people in the room asked if they could turn the cameras off, but they actually secretly still had them on, and they caught like an object
moving,
appearing.
It was so well done. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, so I like the Phillips experiment. Daryl's not too big on that.
Right.
But no, I'm definitely a supporter of that. The other one that we kind of argue about back and forth are electronic voice phenomena, because Daryll has a trouble with the digital part, how we've switched to digital now. Like,
From analog.
you record it on your
give it away.
phone.
It's
I heard
understandable.
analog too. I have to admit.
Yeah, it's understandable to be concerned about digital. I agree with that as well, and I'm sure you would, as a former police officer, like you would.
What?
RCMP, sorry.
I haven't had any success with EVPs. Like, I can't say that I've been to an investigation I've actually caught an EVP. There's been, the odd thing I hear on there, and then when you listen to it, I mean, I just don't think it's there compared to some of the stuff that I've reviewed from other people, where it's very clear and very distinct, and you can tell it's a woman's voice saying this or that. The stuff I've heard, I think it's been pareidolia, which is a psychological condition where your mind is trained to make sense of things. There's visual pareidolia, audio pareidolia. So, like you look up at the clouds and you see Mickey Mouse, it's because your brain is trying to decipher that. Same with audio.
Faces first. So your mind's, it's trained to see faces first, recognize.
My mind started doing that after Mom died. And, if I may be, using the bathroom, it would put voices or music in the, the stream hitting the, toilet bowl. And so anyway, I thought that was fascinating, and it does it all the time. And, I have to be careful because of the fact that I technically am psychotic because I hear audio, I hear voices, I hear conversations, like maybe you're walking through a bus from the back to the front, and you catch, some voices and people talking. Doesn't happen all the time. It's started to happen externally. It was always internally, but anyway.
And you must hear things when the fan is on.
I don't know
when the fan is on
doing it. But I want to go to the EVP for just a second.
Okay.
And so anyway, EVP came out, and Anyway, so it was on magnetic tape. Yes, I said it properly. Magnetic tape, and then now we're using digital. So I said to Elliott, I said, do ghosts take a course on how to switch from magnetic to digital, ones and zeros? I mean, that would be a really high level course, for them to learn to do all the ones and zeros in order to complicate it in order to have an expressive voice or whatever on the digital. And yeah, that was just lately I thought about that, because the magnetic tape you can actually think, because there's a theory that, of course, that intense experiences leave residual stuff around, and with magnetic tape, at least theoretically, it could capture something. Digitally, if I can see it because magnetic, but digital's not. It's ones and zeros, and it'd be awful complicated for a ghost to actually be able to do that. And listen, if you didn't hear it in the room when you caught it, it didn't happen. Your senses are much stronger than any equipment, your ears and your hearing and all that. And so, yeah, if you come back and there's a really loud voice and all that, it's like, well, no, because obviously it's something else, because you were in the room and you didn't hear a thing. So why did it put it on a digital recorder?
Well, if you can project
instead of
energy
loud to
and
you?
sound, why couldn't a disembodied being that is full on energy be able to do that and have something capture it?
Well, if it took the high level course on ones and zeros, it could do that.
See,
But
Yeah, I think
because
it's a little
don't
bit more
forget, it
complicated.
does it when it has to.
I need wine for the
it
next
just
time you
doesn't
guys are on.
happen.
Oh my god.
It just
Jug,
doesn't
because
happen.
I appreciate
something
and
that's-
respect your opinion. I can't agree with it. I think I'm with
yeah, it's
Elliott
fine.
on this one, but I do respect your opinion. I do understand where you're coming from.
So what
Yeah.
some of what Daryl's saying is I agree with. So
Yeah.
the magnetic tape, for example, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense to me because we believe that based on studies that parapsychologists have done, we believe that ghosts can somehow manipulate the electromagnetic field around
Yes.
us. So
I
with
agree
a
with
with an old
Yeah.
recorder with the
Mhm.
magnetic tape, the theory behind the ghosts being able to leave their voice on it is because they can change that magnetic environment. They can record that information onto that device, and then things got complicated when the digital recorder came in, like Darryll said, because it is true. The digital recorder works a little bit different. So it
Mhm.
picks up your voice and then it goes into a bunch of electronic boards that are inside that recorder, and it turns it into an electrical signal, and then it's then transferred and stored as data, which is ones and zeros.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the question is if it's ones and zeros, then how can the ghost leave their voice on it? The magnetic tape makes sense, but then
Yeah.
the digital recorder kind of gets a bit murky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What they believe is that the ghost can somehow, and we do know from other cases that they can manipulate electronics. As you got TVs turn off and on, toys activate on their own, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So what people believe is how they can leave it on the digital recorder is that the ghost can manipulate the electrical signals that are being so your voice again activates the electrical signal into the recorder, and then
Mhm.
it transfers it into a digital data, which is then recorded on a memory card or memory chip in the device. So they think that the ghosts can somehow I'm not making it up.
I want to see you two together in a conversation where we don't have to worry about FM, because that would be entertaining.
But no, that's the theory behind the digital is that the ghost can
Right.
manipulate the electrical signals in the digital one.
Right. But isn't
Just
it,
don't
isn't it
fall
the
off your
same
chair,
though with
Daryll, because it'll kill
images?
me. I can't help you.
Like images on digitals.
I want to meet you.
No, see,
I'll meet you both, actually.
Daryll has
You'll have to ask me back.
Daryll
Oh,
has more photography experience than I do.
Right.
So And he can actually explain too why these orbs kind of started to show up like in the late 2000s. Daryll, explain about the flash and the cameras and the compactness.
Yeah,
And then
let's go from analog, digital, film to, again, digital seems to be the one in question.
everyone's using digital
Yeah.
now for sure. Yeah, you
I
don't see the
prefer
35 mil.
film though. It's
I
really
do too.
sad. It's really
Yeah.
sad, and it's so expensive now to develop it. If you don't have your own blackroom, like you're in trouble. But I think it's the most reliable.
I got a problem with it. The big one is the fact is, if the ghost can go through all that, it has to do, at least with magnetic. If you're walking through a place where, say, Anne Boleyn's, headless body is being carried down, in the Tower of London, or if you see that, because people apparently have, but if you have a magnetic tape, you might pick something up, but digital is too complicated. A ghost, if it can go through all that trouble, why doesn't it just show itself to you? Why doesn't it say something?
But even residual,
we don't
can
know
show
what's
you.
on that other side,
Get
though.
out of my house, or something like that. So digital's too complicated for a ghost to be going through all that trouble when it could just appear or say something very loud, like "get the hell out of here," or whatever. So that's why I have a big problem, as you can tell, on EVP, and it drives me crazy because that's why I wrote the article, "Are Ghosts Extinct?" Because ghosts don't matter anymore. The physical ghost doesn't
It's
matter
about,
anymore. It's all technology. It's all recorders.
I'm
That's
gonna,
all it is now.
I'm going to pose this to you because experiments have been done, especially like in churches, old stone churches. Stone retains sound. Stone bowls have been known to, archaeologists have done experiments where they could pick up sound, cathedrals, again, churches, temples.
Yeah.
And they put recordings in there and they pick up sometimes, like, again, music, like they experiment with stone itself. And it can be recorded. So why not, anything of it, like.
See, now you got me thinking, Michelle, because if, so say, for example, like you did go into that church made of
Yes.
stone and you put the recorder in there and you let it record for 24 hours and then you do an audio analysis on it and you're picking up, and nobody has been in and out of there. You've made sure of that, and you're picking up like some speech in there. Well, now it's like, is it a ghost or is that residual energy caught in the environment that's just replaying itself, almost like a residual haunting, or
Because
what you're
stone
describing
can
stone
retain
tape
it.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
called the stone tape theory, actually.
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
why not human voices, but ghosts?
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. There's definitely more study that has to be done with it. I actually I actually am looking forward to working with our new member, Peter, because he is an audio engineer and he has like all that technical background. I'm not a technical guy. I'm like an arts guy. You know what I mean? So I'm not your technical physics guy and all that stuff, but I'm more your arts historian type
Right.
guy.
But having been an RCMP officer, you must work with a criminal kind of thought mind as well, with an investigation of making sure that you cover everything.
I do it. I think that's why Daryll and I, because it's funny, Daryll, like he calls it like himself there, the brutal believer, and I call myself like a critical believer because I do believe more than Daryll does for sure. But like, and you guys had mentioned on the show, it seems like we do question a lot of stuff, and like I don't want to call us like debunkers, but like I think it's just the way that we've like become as we age, because you start out young, like Daryll calls it, the 10-year-old boy that loves ghost stories, and you believe everything, and then you start doing some actual courses and talking to people in academia and understanding how the world works, understanding how science works, understanding biology, physiology, all that stuff. And then obviously being a police officer, you're skeptical because everyone lies to you.
Science.
You got to piece everything together.
Yep.
No one's giving you the full story right off the bat, so you got to go out and collect little bits and pieces of it. And I've obviously taken that now into my parapsychological investigations. Like
Excellent.
I talk about like the Exeter case when the kids heard scratching at their window. The first thing I did is step outside the house and take a look at the exterior environment. Is there a tree scratching
Mhm.
against the window. Is there a
Yeah.
squirrel up there? Is there a wasp nest up there? There was like nothing around that window. So why were the kids hearing scratching on the glass of the window when there's nothing touching it? So then you can go into you ruled out that hypothesis. Now you got to go to another one. What's
Mhm.
causing that scratching?
Mhm.
I think
Especially-
there's one thing we can all agree on. We don't really know anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the problem. That's why your mainstream scientists have such difficulty with parapsychology, because you can't replicate things. It's so spontaneous. There's more questions than there is answers. But at the other end of the spectrum, if you don't have somebody investigating that, then we'll never know these answers.
But
For example, I've heard two different things. I've heard when you go to like an old historical site and you do EVPs, that you should be respectful that the ghost may not know exactly what a recorder is, because
Mhm.
recorders didn't exist back in the 1800s.
Right.
On the other hand, you hear people's accounts. They had a near-death experience and they went to this spiritual realm, whether you want to call it heaven or just a spiritual realm or whatever. And they said that basically these beings of light just give you all the knowledge that you have. So wouldn't that defeat the purpose that once that person died in the 1800s, now they've gone to the spiritual realm and they have all the answers, that they would know what a digital recorder is? Like, there's just so many different
A lot of
questions.
unanswered questions. And I think what doesn't help is we're going to come full circle here is I think maybe television.
Oh, definitely.
Because I think, but in all fairness to investigations, as you guys know as well, whether it's through parapsychology or just plain paranormal entertainment, is that you could, when you're watching a TV show, you're seeing an hour, maybe out of 24 hours, or maybe out of a week, or out of a night, or, you don't really get, you're only getting little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So, but again, there's people who never have the opportunity to go to haunted locations per se, or participate in even a ghost tour, let alone, let's say, an investigation. All they have to lean on is television. What would you guys like to see different with that? I mean, if you have to have paranormal television, what would you guys like to see change? I can see Daryll
They don't
let
want
me
it.
at it. It's like,
But they don't want that. There was
no,
a
it's
show that
entertainment.
Elliott and I and Donna Davies, who's an amazing director and producer,
Yeah.
and we had a show, Frontiers of the Paranormal. And so we were going to go into the new stuff, like essentially infrasound and the haunted house they built in England, a room essentially, and what they were doing to people, and or go back and look at old photographs and try to analyze them differently. And nobody wants it, because they want every 3 minutes they want something spooky to happen.
We were
And
told
we-
that by a network. A network wanted a scare factor every 3 minutes.
Yep.
That's crazy.
They
It's
were
because there's a formula they have to follow.
Well,
and
they
each
have
and every one of them
sponsors.
do.
they were afraid of Daryl and I. They said we were too scientific and that people don't want to hear that ghosts don't exist. And there was like a whole array of things, and it was very disheartening, because at the end of the day, I went back to Donna and I said, well, Donna, from what the network is describing, then we're not now doing a reality paranormal show. Now we're getting into drama, and we may as well just like create like a show like the X-Files, and just we could write whatever we want and do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny now, because Donna is now kind of branching into doing getting away from reality and doing like TV drama type stuff. Because
you have
that's
to follow
kind of
the formula, or your
Yeah.
stuff never goes
That's
out.
sad.
I know.
and
It
Daryll
would
and I
be
did
refreshing.
Daryll and I did a dueling parapsychologist episode on TV shows, and we actually went through a bunch of them and talked about which ones we liked and which ones we didn't like. But if you go back to some of the original ones, like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy,
Oh, they're phenomenal. I love that show.
Sightings,
That was a great show.
Yeah.
the original Unsolved Mysteries, and the new Unsolved Mysteries still does the same kind of
It
format.
does. It's
So
not too bad.
I have no issues with that. Those shows were great. Even there was the one with
Scariest places on earth. Just throw
Oh,
family
but
in there
even-
and let their senses. They only had is a camera.
They said what
Yeah.
changed the paranormal genre on TV was when Fear, MTV Fear came out, and they used to get people to go into like the haunted house, and you had to stay in there, and that's when like things
I
got
never saw that.
Scariest places on
Yeah.
earth. Same
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
that's where it started to go south.
Yes.
in the stuff.
Because
now
it
the
wasn't
stuff-
just investigative. You were dealing with the people themselves and what their perceptions were and how it made them feel. You're getting into senses now,
Yeah.
not just the logical side of things, right?
We were
Yeah.
going to
And
use the
Daryll-
God
Dar-
helmet. You know, and actually, what
Oh.
I'll force Elliott to. We can use it, and then you can have us back on, and we can talk about whatever crazy
Coming
shit
back on in
happens.
September, how enthusiastic is Elliot about using that God helmet? I have had mine for like many years, okay? And it's never been. As soon as it came with a disclaimer, brought it in, and I've had like some of the younger team members. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? It's like, you don't want to slap this on your head. You don't know what's going to happen to you. That's all right.
I know.
No.
I laughed because when I ordered it, I said, okay, who's going to be the PPRI investigator that tests this out? Because I want to film while you're spasming on the floor, urinating your pants
Right?
Yeah.
after we crank her up.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
Just remember,
okay.
it's on
I
film.
want to experience that. So whatever happens.
See?
You can always wear
Daryll, he's
depends.
willing.
You can always
Yeah.
wear depends. You'll be
Yes,
fine.
yes,
Sure.
exactly.
There's no shame in it. There's no shame in it.
Yeah.
Do it for the research, Daryll. Just do it for
Exactly.
the research.
It's all in the name of science, right?
Oh my
Sure.
gosh.
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be refreshing to see a show on television that,
Daryll and I
is
have,
really skeptical. I think it would be refreshing, and I think you would have the attention of your peers with that show.
Daryll and I have challenged on our podcast. I know for sure we threw it out there. We said if there's a producer out there looking, to work with two parapsychologists and they want to do some interesting stuff, like there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do. Like you could, like that case that Lloyd Auerbach worked on where the architect had kind of mangled the house and there was all kinds of different factors. Daryll and I said, how cool would it be if you had a TV show where you could build like a haunted house and do some experiments in there and like see what shows up, see what your experience like. But
That's like the entity when the university built the home of the woman that was
Replicated it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
we've offered the challenge, but no one's sent us emails or texted and called. I guess just
Why not try to do something like a modern day school and do it from a parapsychologist standpoint, because people were so interested in that experiment, even the Philip experiment. But if you guys did it and put it together and invited people, even from England and just from different, parts of the world who were versed or researched it at all and brought them together, I bet you would get some interest.
Yeah,
It's an old theory with new thoughts and maybe new, new perceptions, new approaches. I bet you would do well with it. How do I know that? Because I consult on stuff. I put shit like this together. Ooh, did I say the S word?
We're allowed. It's only one.
Oops.
It's the F word. That's like a $20,000 fine in US dollars.
Apparently, but
with all this though, I'm very scientific, but going back to Flatliners and not talking about Kevin Bacon's ass.
You need to watch Stir of Echoes if you haven't seen it, Daryll. Kevin Bacon's in it.
That movie creeps me out and also hits me emotionally when when
he finds the little girl.
Her father had committed suicide, and Julia Roberts, and that look at the goosebumps. That gets me every time on a personal as well as a professional one. When I was younger, this book came out, and it was about a woman
the Intruders,
who bought a house, and this is actually almost three-dimensional. She bought a house in San Francisco, and stuff was happening and all that, and it scared the bejesus out of me when I was young. But when I read it as an adult, I realized she had severe anxiety disorder, because that's what I have. And also, if you want to talk about ghosts and getting into people's senses and mind, and that the Christmas Carol that came out in 2019 with Guy Pearce, it's not the Christmas Carol. It's a character study, and nobody understands that. They show at the beginning he has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He has a major anxiety disorder because you don't have one. Usually you got at least two.
Mm.
And the first time I watched it, it was fine. And the second time I watched, I got into okay, I know somebody actually took them and analyzed them and made that. But still, that too, I can still get very excited about something that's not real. And so that
Mhm.
10-year-old boy is still here, and he's going to make Elliott dig out that helmet. And if I poop myself and
I want
he
a clip.
smashes
I'm
me
We'll
out of
going
the
to
play it
put it on the
live.
floor.
show.
Yeah, we'll play it for you.
Yeah, we only
So,
have about 3 million
but
people to
yes, and
listen.
then we can
Nothing.
talk about our experiences with it.
Okay.
And yes, so that yeah, I had forgot about it, but now that you've said it
He's
on TV,
willing,
Elliot,
Elliot.
you
He's
got to take it
willing.
out.
I'll
I
have to get
say,
him
I
down
say,
here. Have to get him down here to Sydney, and we'll
okay.
hook
I
him up.
say do it. Yeah, I say
Yeah.
do it.
We'll see if we can. We'll see if we can do it before your next show. We'll see.
That would
We'll see
be
if we can get
good.
her going. Yeah.
That
Well,
would be good because you
you've
guys are
got
back
just under
on
2 months.
almost
Yeah.
2 months. Yeah. So he's like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. Okay. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so let's plug let's plug the symposium, and then we can tell everybody what you guys have coming up besides that. After
Can
we
I
plug the
squeeze in before they
Yeah.
do
Go
that?
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
How about you two make a Folgers commercial advertising
I was
that?
thinking that earlier, and then we play it on all the shows.
We have one brain.
I know.
Yeah.
That's true. Just
I've
make it about
mentioned to
Folgers.
Elliot that
As
we
long
should
as
do
it's
You
about
have-
Folgers, you could
Yep.
advertise yourself.
You have to show Folgers, whether it's a K-cup or
Oh, yeah.
whatever, the coffee, and you
Sing
need
it.
to say it.
I know.
You don't have
whatever
to
you want.
sing it. Dolly sings it. But
I'm
you
just kidding,
need
yeah.
to show it and speak it because we have visual and audio audiences. So
I know we play
yeah,
it.
and in that you can advertise yourselves at the same time.
And Folgers actually watches. Just
Do
so
we
you
have
know.
Dolly's up for?
I don't have it loaded.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
because otherwise-
I should reach out to them and see if they're interested in sponsoring the symposium. I drink
Well, they-
Folgers every morning.
Well,
They
you should do a
sponsor us.
commercial and maybe you never know. Yeah, they sponsor us. but you could put yourself out here and you just never know. Maybe you guys just need to bring your show right here to the United Public Radio Network and really amp it up. And you never know, you might get
They might be
Folgers.
sponsoring you.
Yeah, you never know. You
Just
never
saying.
know.
Okay, shoot, guys.
Yeah. So, guys, we are holding the inaugural Halifax Paranormal Symposium event. We want it to be successful because we want to make this a reoccurring event every year. This year, we decided to do a theme on real case studies or real investigations or real case studies that have been done. So again, Darryll Walsh is going to be doing
Our ghost extinct.
I never get that right. Yeah, whatever Darryll said.
I thought the screen froze. I'm like, what?
Our ghost extinct. Lauren Coleman is doing Wendigos and other strange creatures that have been reported in Nova Scotia. Like Daryl and I said, there's a sea monster in St. Margaret's Bay. Kim Mosher, she's going to talk about her experiences investigating some haunted locations all across Canada, the United States. Then Chris Stiles is going to be talking about what your viewers have probably already heard about, the Clear Sweep 5, which is the operation that was done off Shelburne involving 2 underwater UFOs. Going to be a great time. We're going to have some vendors there selling some products and providing information. We'll have most of my staff will be there. Actually, my deputy director, Spencer Collier, is coming up from Boston, so he'll be there. So you can we'll have T-shirts on and stuff like that. You can ask any of us questions. It's going to be really a truly educational event. That's what it's there for. I really want to provide, an entertaining but also educational event to the public. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's something Daryl and I wanted to do a couple of years ago, and then COVID hit. This is the year that we're doing it, and I really want it to be successful. I've really put my heart and soul into this thing. So I told my wife, because she is watching our finances on this, because PPRI, Ghost Project Canada, you guys, The Outer Realm, and the Haunted Walk from Toronto, so far the 4 sponsors that we have. So I told Sarah, failure is not an option. I will be successful.
Resistance is
We
futile,
believe in
Sarah.
you both.
Yeah.
I'd love
both
it.
of you.
I'd love it if you guys could attend. I know you guys probably got plans and stuff like that. I know Brian Baker, a good friend of both you guys.
Yeah,
He wants to attend as well. There's still lots of tickets available for sure. ppri.net/tickets to get them. And yeah, I mean, we're getting down to about just less than 90 days left. So it's coming up
yeah,
quick.
you're getting there.
It's
and I know
exciting.
Christelle's coming back on for sure. You guys are coming back on. Kim might come back on. We sort of left that hanging. I don't know. We'll try to just get
she's
everybody
become one of the
cycled through
girls.
again
Yeah.
before the big day. So it just
Dolly,
revs
Michelle, I'll go
everybody up.
if you
I know.
go. Dolly will go if you go.
There we go.
I can't. Oh, hi, buddy. My dog is like nibbling at me here.
Well, with that being said, we're at the top of the hour plus, and we do have to play our promo. And I know I can see my producer down there going. So I play the promo. The promo. That's that French. Me being French. Been a long bloody day, okay, people. Anyway, but thank you guys for coming on. It was super interesting. And no F-bombs, so that was really good.
Yeah, no $20,000 fine, so that's great.
No, but you could write it down on a sign and just put it up in the camera if you feel, compelled to do that.
I know. There we go. But we get to do this again, and we should pick up where we left off or elaborate on certain things, because I could tell there's a lot more you wanted to say.
Oh, there's a couple more topics we could duel about, and we'll bring that on the next show for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yay.
Let's
it
do
was
that.
lots of fun.
Let's do
Thank
that.
you.
All right, guys.
Thanks
you
for having
very
us,
much.
guys.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for all your support for the symposium as well.
It's a
my
pleasure.
God.
Glad
Thank
to be
you
a part
so
of it,
much.
even from here.
And Ghost Project Canada, don't forget about that.
That's right.
Yes.
I haven't had time to tell you all about it. You'd be fascinated with it. So, but we'll do that the next time. Or
Let's do it. For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Send a list and we'll make sure it all gets covered.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Good
night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. It was an
Bye.
honor.
All right, guys. Night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Night.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. And big thank you to both Daryll and Elliott. They're a lot of fun and very knowledgeable. And there's going to be a little bit of, imbalance as to what people think. But, I love their perspective. So also big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justice Snicker, and Steve McGinnis. We appreciate you all so much. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing part 2 of our haunted travel destinations. The last one was wow, I know. But all right, let's just do this again and keep going. I know, it was amazing. So this will be a lot more interactive. Tonight was really hard to be interactive with chat because there was so much they wanted to talk about and that we actually didn't get to. So we were all here, not like we were ignoring you, but it was really nice to have something from this point of view. So I'm going to leave you guys with a couple of our podcast awards promo, and we shall see you guys tomorrow night. Everybody behave. See you tomorrow.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast, in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.
Hey there. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment